Many who enter the caregiving professions do so because they know exactly what it means to need help. Empathy is a powerful driver, but it often arrives hand in hand with past trauma or a lingering sense of low self-esteem. To compensate, caregivers frequently take on an invisible weight, the compulsion to constantly overperform. You can see this psychological trap spring shut in recovery coaching. When a client finally achieves a major life milestone, like securing full-time employment, you might expect the coach to feel pure relief. Instead, it often triggers intense anxiety about how the stress of a new job might derail the client's recovery. Beneath that concern for the client is a quiet internal spiral. The coach is left watching someone move on, grappling with a sense of loss and the persistent nagging fear that they didn't do enough to prepare them for the real world. Systemic wellness training targets a specific source of professional exhaustion, the crushing, impossible belief that a coach must be an omniscient expert with a solution to every problem. This pressure starts with the professional, bleeds into the client relationship, and defines the organization's culture. Fearing incompetence, individuals hide blind spots and stop asking for help. As this scales, the organization becomes rigid and fragile, unable to adapt to friction on the ground. True expertise for a systemic wellness practitioner looks entirely different. It requires the professional courage to drop the mask, look at a complex problem, and simply ask, "I don't know, what do you think?" Think of the professional client boundary like a hammer. A good coach can hand a client the tool, explain exactly what it's for, and teach them the health and safety protocols required to hold it. But the coach cannot swing the hammer for them. This boundary is critical when a client transitions out of treatment and takes their deep-seated trauma into a corporate environment. The coach cannot follow them into the office to manage their conflicts. A corporate workplace will inevitably activate a client's trauma. The stress of deadlines, authority figures, and office politics will test their resilience. However, the workplace is not built to process that trauma. The client has to know which tool to reach for when those conflicts arise. Stepping back and allowing the client to navigate that friction isn't a failure of care. It is the exact mechanism that protects the client's personal agency. It also ensures the professional doesn't burn out by trying to play the savior. This same framework of vulnerability reshapes internal office dynamics and colleague relationships. Today, many professionals are paralyzed by the fear of saying the wrong thing. When it comes to diversity, and particularly trans identities and pronouns, people often choose to walk on eggshells, avoiding conversations entirely rather than risking a mistake. This anxiety often stems from the assumption that moving beyond strict gender binaries is a modern, complicated invention. Yet, looking at the Zulu language, pronouns are inherently non-binary. Grammatical structures that don't differentiate by gender are deeply rooted in historical cultures. Human societies have always varied wildly in how they construct gender. Archaeological analysis of graves in ancient Babylonia reveals distinct, rigid divisions between men and women, right down to the specific items buried with them. But contrast that with the ancient Hittite civilization. When archaeologists analyzed those tombs across all social classes, they found minimal differentiation between the sexes. The roles and rules we assume are permanent are often just regional customs. Bring that back to the modern office. For marginalized colleagues, the isolating silence of coworkers who are too afraid to engage is far more damaging than a clumsy, honest question. If you struggle with the grammar of they-them pronouns, admitting that difficulty out loud builds trust. The genuine intent to learn and respect a colleague's identity will always matter more than grammatical perfection. When an employee is finally able to drop their professional mask, whether that means coming out at work or simply admitting they need help, the psychological relief is immediate. It feels exactly like a heavy cloud lifting from the room. Dropping the mask has a tangible effect on organizational health. As Scarlett found after coming out at work, the energy previously spent pretending to be someone else was finally available for her actual role, transforming a lingering sense of depression into active daily motivation. Organizations ruled by the fear of offense operate completely differently. When difficult topics are avoided, unspoken resentments and boiling anxieties fester. The culture becomes sick because the pressure is never released. You cannot solve complex cultural friction by hiding behind rigid HR policies or treating human interactions like a tick box exercise. A policy document cannot generate empathy or repair a broken relationship. Systemic wellness is never built on flawless grammar or having the perfect answer ready at all times. It is built on the radical courage to meet fear with curiosity, admit what you don't know, and ask the difficult questions.